All right, we are live. Good afternoon. If you're in California, this is an election day. The day was, it kind of caught me a little off guard. I knew it was around the corner, but it wasn't until last night that I realized I had to go pick up my voting papers and actually fill it out, go to the polling place and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been between that work and some other things, it's been a pretty action packed day. For a while, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get on a chat today, but in the ninth inning, essentially, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I just created a thumbnail, said, let's go. There's really a lot to discuss, and I mean, obviously, there's the elephant in the room, which we're definitely going to touch on, and that's all things regarding Ryan Garcia's behavior over the past several days. Um, just want to do a check, make sure that we're good. Are we good on audio? Everything is audible. Okay. And I'm gonna, briefly go over some other boxing things like Raymond Ford's sensational, dramatic TKO over Kolmatov, Luis Alberto Lopez retaining his belt against Abe. Raymond Ford, by the way, just became another featherweight champion, but it looks like he's gonna go up to 130 immediately. Um, there's also Jake Paul's first round knockout over Ryan Borland. Uh, I expected him to win, but damn, another first round knockout. And then Amanda Serrano was unable to take to the ring because of a an eye injury that they discovered, kept her out of it, and it really made for a dramatic scene in Puerto Rico. I mean, she was heartbroken that she could not perform for her fans, and yeah, the crowd was pretty restless. They came to see her and were pretty much notified, seemingly moments before the main event was going to take place. Because remember, Jake Paul versus Ryan Borland was the main event. Main event. Amanda Serrano versus Nina Manke was supposed to be the main event, and so Amanda Serrano had to apologize. Well, didn't have to, but chose to apologize to the crowd that was in attendance, and it just really made for a pretty sad scene. Just as decorated and as esteemed as she is, just kind of breaking down in that moment. You also heard some boos from the crowd blended in with the cheers, and it's just like, like I. It's just sad that she had to do that, and it just made for an overall very disappointing moment. And so we're gonna, talk a little bit about that. That all happened this past weekend, and we are gonna talk a little bit and set our sights forward on this Friday, which is Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou, Zhili Zhang versus Joseph Parker, Ray Vargas defending his WBC 126 featherweight title against Nick Ball, who's coming off a good win over Isaac Dogboe. So for Ray Vargas, it's his first fight since going up to 130, fighting for a vacant WBC belt there and losing to Oshaki Foster. So it's been a while since Ray Vargas has been in the ring. But yeah, that's also going to be on that AJ versus Ngannou undercard, as is Israel Madrimov versus Magomed Kurbanov, which it looked like it was about to be canceled. They didn't really specify why, but it looks like that fight is going to go on. That's for the vacant WBA 154-pound title. I believe that's the last belt that Jermell Charlo has been stripped of. So yeah, this is that vacant WBA junior middleweight belt. But I really want to dive into kind of the story of the week, and it's almost less a boxing story than it is just a human story, depending on how you are interpreting what we've witnessed from Ryan Garcia over the past several days. Pretty much starting off with the bizarre second leg of the press conference. GWK is in the house. Thank you for coming through. And I definitely want everybody, as we're discussing this, to weigh in on your thoughts, because I understand and I respect that there's a wide spectrum of beliefs here. I know that some people feel like he's trolling. Some people think that he's either promoting the event or trying to get out of the event. I have a more straightforward look at this one. I look at it like, to me, the signs are very clear, and there are too many parallels between what Ryan Garcia is exhibiting right now and, I mean, quite frankly, schizophrenia. And we're going to talk about, the different signs that, the different signs that we're seeing, and kind of the chain of events that grew more and more problematic and concerning as time went on. Now, I believe that there's some people who aren't going to ever buy that this is a real episode that he's having. Like, I feel like there's a portion of the people that, they could see him do harm, literally see him do harm to himself or others, and still think that it's a part of the show. I feel like that's where we are as a society, a jaded society, not without reason, but I think that there's some people who will just never buy into the idea that he is really struggling mentally. I happen to think that he is. There was that second leg of the press conference where Devin Haney had accused him of, being on cocaine, and just to see Ryan Garcia up there and having to deny that he is on cocaine. Like, if you're not on cocaine, rarely do you have to get up out in front of people and say, I'm not on cocaine. And then he went into what he is, admittedly on, drinking, smoking, which, look, in a vacuum, it doesn't sound like those are, that drinking can lead to schizophrenia, or that smoking weed can lead to schizophrenia. I believe that you can smoke yourself into schizophrenia. It doesn't happen to everybody. It doesn't happen to most, but not everybody's mental makeup is the same. People have different chemical makeups, just neurologically. And look, I'm not an expert on the topic. I'm speaking from secondhand experience and just observation. This is all just observation. Karma Serene is in the house. Thank you for coming through. Good evening. Happy Tuesday. Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk a bit about the upcoming fight this weekend, Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. I've seen a lot of interesting discussion, and there is a part of that fight that is just, we don't really know what to expect. But, look, with Ryan Garcia, if he is not, okay, first of all, one reason why I don't think that this is staged is because I'm thinking of, what does he get out of this? Like, you want to talk about stooping to a new low to sell a fight. If you see what he was saying on that platform with Andrew Tate today, there was nothing about that conversation that had me saying, yeah, let's go. Devin Haney versus Garcia. Let's do it. There was nothing about what's coming out of Ryan Garcia and what he's exhibiting and showing us that makes me want to see the fight more. And, and I'm going to be a little bit, I'm not going to speak verbatim, word for word, what he's saying. It's very disturbing. Do any of those things that he's saying make this fight more attractive? I just don't see that. I don't see that angle. So again, what is he getting out of this? Is this leading to more money? Is this enhancing his reputation in any way? I know that there's the old mantra, all, attention is good attention. All publicity is good publicity. Controversy sells. We hear it all. Ava. We hear it all. But in this case, I don't see this as being a path to selling more tickets. I mean, notice we didn't hear anything like today from Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy. I'm sure that they're scrambling, thinking, what the hell is going on? I just listened to Chris Mannix's, his podcast this morning. He was talking with Lance Pugmire, who's a longtime writer. He had that show with Mike Coppinger, that podcast for a while. Chris Mannix said that he heard that members of Ryan Garcia's family are concerned about his behavior. So, we just saw, what was it? Was it yesterday or this morning? I feel like it was as recent as this morning where we saw his dad remark that he's okay, that he's just taking the trolling and the fight promoting too far. He's going about it the wrong way. I mean, that's an understatement. And look, in full disclosure, I've had loved ones and, friends, like one of my closest friends. I've had loved ones who have suffered schizophrenia. I've had friends who've developed schizophrenia later, like not in their 20s, but in their 30s. I know people who have developed schizophrenia in their 50s. Sometimes it's substance related or substance enhanced or, exacerbated. Sometimes there are substances involved, other times they're not. It's really something that's it's widely studied, but very little is really known about schizophrenia or what triggers it. I mean, it could be drugs in the case of Ryan Garcia, if he is in fact schizophrenic, which again, I feel like I have seen what he's saying, and he almost sounds verbatim like people who I've known just in my personal life. And there's certain patterns and parallels. One, the grandiosity or of the declarations, like how mega they sound, right? But also like the lack of specificity. Like when Andrew Tate was pressing for like specifics, I'll show you, I will reveal it to the world at a later date. It's never, let me show you what I'm going through. Let me prove to you what I'm talking about. It's always it will be revealed. The world will one day know. I can't be God. When you start hearing like people, the God talk, and I'm protected, like not all God talk, but certain God talk, I just see certain patterns and parallels. So again, I could be wrong. He could just be putting on this crazy show, which again, if he is faking this, I feel like that's almost unforgivable, especially his background. He pulled out of his whole career for like a year after that Luke Campbell fight, citing mental health struggles, and then went on a series of interviews after that talking about the importance of checking your mental health and making sure that you are mentally okay and the importance of that. You don't go from that to what we're seeing now and joking about that and playing about that. I just don't see that. GWK said, yeah, the story about him in the woods. Yeah, this is stuff that, other conspiracy theorists, from the Alex Joneses and so forth, you could find this type of talk out there on the internet. And I'm not even here to 100% debunk everything. I don't even claim to know. I don't know what's real, what's not real. I'm not in those inner circles. I'm not in the know. But the talk is out there. And the way that he's talking about these somewhat widely accepted conspiracy theories, he's not the first person I've heard say that. But again, what is he gaining out of declaring what happened to him at 2 years old, or that he was forced to watch certain things? What does he get out of saying that if it's not true? That's why I think that he actually might believe what he's saying. And if that's the case and it's not true, then that is a serious mental health issue. And he shouldn't be fighting it on April 20th, period. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm kind of hoping that they cancel it and get ahead of it, and maybe put another, they're talking about Arnold Barboza. I know that's not as cool a fight as Haney versus Ryan Garcia, and it's not going to sell nearly as well, but it at least keeps some train on the tracks. Meanwhile, Ryan Garcia can get the help that he needs. And there are various ways of going about it. Some people get treated, some people never get treated. Some people just continue to mentally unravel and decline until they are unable to hold a professional career. And if they don't have loved ones in their lives, or money, or a shelter over their head, a lot of people who experience that could end up on the streets, because little by little, people around them are unable to help them if they can't get the medical attention that they need. It's really a messed up situation, and it's really sad. If he is going through that, boxing is the least of his worries, and boxing is the last thing that I feel we should care about him getting back into. This is more a life event. Look, as it stands, I don't know if we will ever see Ryan Garcia back in the ring. I'm really kind of taking this one seriously, and I had to kind of grow to that point. Like the press conferences in themselves didn't do it for me. I still wasn't sure, but in the days to follow, coupled with like his ex-girl's post, like I took that seriously, because I'm thinking again, what do they have to gain by trolling in this manner? Let's see. Yeah, Carmen Serene said, this isn't the first time he said this. It just didn't go this far. Yeah, this was pretty far. This was very far, right? Fernando T is in the house. Thank you for coming through. Pablo B in the house. Thank you for coming through. Fernando T, I wonder if the fight is still going to happen. You know what? Nothing would surprise me. I feel like it's kind of on the sanctioning bodies at this point. I feel like they're supposed to be the adults in the room. I can't really, I hate to say this, I can't trust Oscar to do the right thing in this case. When people start seeing dollar signs of this magnitude, a lot of other stuff gets put on the back burner, including morality. So I hope Golden Boy can prove me wrong and get ahead of this and say, no, call the fight off. They come in and they wave it off. Like, he's had enough. I think that we've had enough of what we're seeing right now. And just the fact that there's nobody around Ryan Garcia to literally physically take his phone away. That tells you that, I mean, look, at the end of the day, adults are tough to control. He's not a kid. You know what I mean? Like, parents stop having that type of jurisdiction where you're grounded, give me your stuff. It doesn't work that way with adults, let alone rich adults who have access and enablers and stuff like that. Ryan Garcia is pretty much going where he wants with that phone. And I mean, it's almost like, Donald Trump at this point, in terms of just the train of thought that's coming across in his tweets. It's really sad that it's playing out in public. Again, if this is authentic behavior. Pablo B thinks that Ryan is playing. Oh, no. You're saying I can't believe that he is just playing everybody. Yeah, this would be too far. And again, it would make him look like the biggest hypocrite. It would almost be unforgivable if he's trolling like this, given his own apparent, mental health issues in the past and the seriousness that he was taking that with in interviews and during pulling out of his own career. To go from that to trolling in this manner, that doesn't make sense. And when he lost his voice at the press conference, I looked at that as, look, you could literally talk yourself into losing your voice. That is possible. But you could also have a long night and a coke bender and end up barely being able to say anything at the end of the night. That's also true. And he looked disheveled, like somebody who had been going pretty hard. Like, and just his defensiveness up there. Like, if you weren't in any way under the influence and you're defending yourself like that and just kind of rambling and not really sounding totally intelligible and kind of stumbling over your words, trying to explain yourself, it wasn't the look or sound of somebody who had it all together and who was not on the influence at that time. But granted, I mean, you could also be mentally disoriented, smoking too much weed. Like, if he smoked a lot of weed before the press conference and wasn't able to maintain, that could play out too. I just don't see it playing out in that exact way. There could be paranoia and stuff like that, but the loss of voice and just I don't know. Look, I'm not going to speculate too hard on what was up with him on that day, but I did witness the days to follow that, and it only got worse from there. Alan Ortega is in the house. Thank you for coming through. Yeah, it would be so weird. But if the fight, you think that if the fight happens, Ryan Garcia will shock the world? It's not impossible. I mean, he's a talented kid, but here's the thing. If they were selling the fight, it's not like we went from, hey, this is a 50-50 fight, to then Ryan Garcia pulling some stunt that makes it seem even more competitive in his favor. Or it's not like he came into this as like the favorite and now it evens it out because it's like, hey, is Ryan okay? No, this is a fight that, because of the name recognition and because we still believe that he's a very talented young man, that we still want to see that fight. Plus their grudge over the years, their several fights in the amateurs, all that stuff made this fight super attractive. But we, the public, didn't see this and don't see this as a 50-50 fight just going in. And that's absent of all of the behavior we're seeing. What we're now seeing out of Ryan Garcia is a little bit more Oliver McCall versus Lennox Lewis in their rematch. I don't know if y'all remember, but in the rematch after Oliver McCall shocked the world, knocking Lennox Lewis out, claiming the belt when they fought again, as soon as the bell rang, a couple minutes into the fight, he just started pacing back and forth and not even looking at his opponent. And he was just kind of huffing and puffing, just kind of looking very concerned, pacing back and forth. And Lennox Lewis is kind of jabbing. And, every now and then Oliver McCall would put his hands up. It was one of the more bizarre things I've ever seen in a boxing ring. And they ended up just stopping the fight because he was just not fighting at all. He wasn't throwing any punches. Lennox Lewis didn't even feel comfortable opening up. That's how awkward it got. This, what Ryan Garcia is showing, makes me think that we might get one of those episodes in the ring. There's nothing about this behavior that's telling me like, haha, yeah, Haney versus Garcia, that's what's up. I don't feel that way. And I don't feel like any of this makes the matchup seem more competitive. But yeah, anything could literally happen when you've got two talented people in the ring exchanging punches. So look, is this real? Is this not real? Is he doing it to sell the fight? I don't think so. I think it's real. Is he doing it to get out of the fight? If he's doing it to get out of the fight, damn, this is a crazy measure to get out of the fight, to make people think that you need to be taken care of. Like, I think it might have been my cousin who had texted me, and not the cousin who's often in here, Benji Tucker, but another cousin was saying, this is almost like a road to conservatorship, whatever Britney Spears was under, conservatorship, right? Yeah. It's on the path to that, where he seems like he might be on the path to be needing to be taken care of. That is not conducive to maintaining a professional boxing career. Let's see. Disgimus, Anthony Joshua is Frank Bruno 2.0. Nah, he's already way more proven than Frank Bruno at this point. I mean, in terms of their musculature, maybe, like, they were both pretty jacked up, but I don't think so. And that's not to say Frank Bruno couldn't have beaten AJ. I'm just saying in terms of their career history, their career accomplishments, not on the same level as far as I see it. Oh, Benjamin Tucker. What's up, Benji? What's up, Brexley? Yeah, he cannot be training at the moment. The first thought that I had when I saw Ryan Garcia on the second day of that press conference was, yeah, nobody's going to be able to get in touch with him the following day, and for at least the first half of the day, because if he was going as hard as he seems like he was going substance-wise, yeah, he's going to be sleeping in till like 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Let's see. DJ, what's up? Thank you for coming through. Asked, if Ryan Garcia were to lose to Devin Haney, would he ever be taken seriously as a fighter? I think so. Look, losing to Devin Haney is not the worst thing in the world. Even if he would have lost 2 out of his last 3 fights, so maybe the public would kind of recalibrate on what we think his potential upside is. He would have to go back to the drawing board and fight, a couple lesser opponents to, continue to skill build. But he's still super young. He's in his mid-20s. I just don't know if, at this rate, given that the fame outpaced the accomplishments and the skill building, like when you get famous before you get good, that could be concerning if you don't still have the wherewithal and the discipline to kind of train like you're not famous, to train like you're not rich. That's asking a lot from a star. You know what I mean? Fighters who are a lot older and more seasoned than Ryan Garcia have trouble maintaining hunger and training like professionals if they get broken off enough bread and have enough success throughout their career. So if you have, superstar level name recognition and you get millions of dollars before you become an A-level fighter professionally, yeah, I could see the trains coming off the tracks and him lacking discipline. You know who I would want to talk to? I want to hear what Derek James has to say right now. Like if he was being totally candid, I would love to get his take on, hey man, what's up with Ryan Garcia? You know what I mean? Cause he knows, right? If your pupil, if your, student is training like a professional. This guy, Errol Spence was known to not always be the most disciplined in terms of taking care of himself, right? But I suspect that Jermell Charlo, through a big portion of his career, was totally dedicated, and Errol Spence obviously was too. You don't get to where he got without being super dedicated. So I would be curious as to what Derek James has to say. It just seems to me like he's just along for the ride and just kind of like, let's just wait this thing out. You saw him kind of tapping Ryan Garcia during the press conference, like, hey man, chill. Yo, what are you doing? Chill. I think that there are a lot of people who are close to the situation who are just seeing this thing unravel and are just thinking to themselves, yeah, this fight ain't happening on April 20th. And I feel like that's what we're witnessing. And I think that that's the most likely outcome. I mean, do you guys think that the fight's going to go through? I don't see how everybody who's a party in making this fight could, in good conscience, allow this fight to go through. Let's see. Yeah, Dewey Cooper, Ngannou's trainer, is underrated. Yeah, and that was one of the big stories with him versus Tyson Fury and him overachieving in the way that he did. Yeah, 4 fights a year. Yeah, Anthony Joshua's been more active than he's been at any point since, I believe, I think 2016 might have been the last time he had 3 fights in a year. And then he had 3 fights in 2023. So it's good to see the activity from Anthony Joshua. I don't think that he's taking this Ngannou fight lightly. I think he senses the potential danger, and it's a must win for Anthony Joshua. By the way, I did drop a full preview. Was it this morning? It was either this morning or yesterday. It was yesterday morning. I dropped a full preview. Check that out when you have a chance. But the pressure's on AJ. You know what I mean? He not only has to win, but I feel like he's got to win in a pretty demonstrative way to kind of restore, the reputation of boxing, so to speak, after the stinker that Tyson Fury put up against Ngannou and how competitive that fight was. I think a lot of us are still shocked at what we saw that day. But yeah, I think that there's a good amount of pressure on AJ, as there always is in Anthony Joshua fights. So I think that he's taking this one very seriously. I'm skeptical on whether he's going to be comfortable exchanging mid-range and exchanging hooks, quite frankly. Like, you let the first punch go, the first power punch in the combination go. Is he going to want to engage in 2 to 3 punch combination exchanges with Francis Ngannou? That could potentially go really bad for either guy. I mean, when you've got both guys who hit as hard as they do, let's let the bullets fly for the next 2 seconds, for the next 3 punches. Those sometimes could go either way. I know Joshua throws a nice tight left hook, but, it was mid-exchange against Andy Ruiz when Joshua got caught upside the head and got rocked and wobbled, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. So Francis Ngannou, he lacks experience. He doesn't lack punching power, and I don't think he's lacking confidence going into this one either. So I'm really curious to see how cautious of a fight Anthony Joshua fights against Ngannou. Let's see. Alan Ortega thinks that Haney versus Ryan Garcia is going down. Money does rule, but I feel like this one is so blatant. This one is so exposed. This one is so out in the public. You look at Twitter, he's trending all over the place for all the wrong reasons. And again, the subject matter that he's ranting about in these tweets or X's, that he's deleted much of them. Other people have screenshots of what he tweeted. The subject matter in itself is very concerning. I just don't see how can anybody even interview, aside from Devin Haney and his team? Like, they're just doing their job at moving forward, because as far as they know, the fight is on and they're just doing their job in preparing for it. So Bill Haney, Devin Haney, I'm not talking so much about them, but Oscar De La Hoya, anybody who operates on DAZN, even the commentators sound like this fight shouldn't be happening. And I imagine it's going to be like some combination of Chris Mannix, Sergio Mora. They're not going to, advocate for this fight. I just feel like any responsible party in the boxing game is going to talk against this thing happening. Like, look at Dan Rayfield's reactions on X to, a lot of those Ryan Garcia moments and tweets and conversation with Andrew Tate. Everybody's pretty shocked by this stuff. I just don't see how De La Hoya and company could keep this thing going. And I mean, let's hear from Eddie Hearn what he thinks should happen. Like, nobody who wants to be able to maintain any credibility going forward can say, yeah, I think that it's a great idea for this fight to go on. I just don't see anybody who, not to say that any of these people generally advocate for, or act in the best interest of the fighters at all times. I'm not saying that, but if they want to maintain any shred of credibility, they've got to do the right thing, to quote Spike Lee, or at least to name his early movie. Uh, let's see. Pablo B said matchmaking didn't have any sense from the beginning. Ryan should fight B-class fighters. I think that there was something to what Floyd was reportedly suggesting to Ryan Garcia, that Rolly Romero would have been a better fit, because that way Ryan Garcia could kind of backdoor his way into getting a title, right? He could get the WBA title, and then it increases the intrigue in his next fight. But there's no guarantee that a Ryan Garcia fight would go well against Rolly Romero. Rolly Romero hits as hard as well. They're both very flawed fighters, but I think Ryan Garcia would have a better shot at Rolly than he would against Devin Haney. But again, it would just add to the credibility, because what's one thing about Ryan Garcia's professional career? He still hasn't won any belt, right? Like even Gervonta Davis, for as weird as he kind of cherry picks and frustratingly cherry picks a lot of his fights, he earned a title back in the day, and he's now been elevated with his 135 WBA belt. Which, okay, I mean, he earned it because Devin Haney, the true WBA champ, stepped away, so he was elevated from longtime regular or lesser WBA champ. So even Gervonta Davis has held a belt. Teofimo Lopez, all these guys. Shakur Stevenson has held belt in 3 different divisions now. Ryan Garcia still hasn't become a champion. So in fighting Rolly, you would have at least gotten that. Plus, he could continue to skill build. Devin Haney isn't the guy to try new stuff against. DJ said the timing of it all just seems weird to me. He wasn't acting out before promoting the fight, but now he seems to be all over the place. I can't help but to feel that he's trolling. But again, he would become one of the most hated people in boxing, and not like not the charming kind of hate where it's like, you love to hate him. I can't wait to see him fight again because I want him to lose. He's not that kind of hate, but more like that's pretty despicable type of hate. You know what I mean? Like it would be more like that, where it's almost inexcusable. You know what I mean? Like it's not like you're talking trash that goes too far against your opponent, or you push him or do something, or have like a negative headline in the news about something that, I mean, even Jared Anderson, Big Baby, right? He just got drunk driving is, getting caught. It's all bad, right? It's terrible. But he will not become a boxing pariah just off of this. You know what I mean? And his reaction to, ESPN as what he was saying in the wake of that wasn't a good look either. But even all that, he still won't be as big a boxing pariah as Ryan or Garcia would be if this was a trolling moment for him. You know what I mean? There's too much that he would be giving up reputation wise for this to make sense as a promotional stunt. Now, again, if this is I'm trying to get out of the fight stunt, different story, but it's still just way too far to where your reputation may never recover from something like this. He would have to, spend the next few years explaining himself away. Because of the subject matter. Again, I think that the details in this one matter. I mean, and this could also be boxing CTE. Like this could be a lot of different things that's triggering, again, what seems to me to be schizophrenia. It could be drugs, drinking, CTE, fame and pressure. It could be pressure. He could be legitimately cracking, or it could be past traumas. If what he says happened to him at 2 did happen at 2, then past traumas could also spur something like that. But yeah, I don't think that he's selling the fight here, and I don't think that the fight should go on. Let's see. Also, by the way, just quick take. Who are you guys taking between Zhili Zhang and Joseph Parker? I know that's a hell of a segue to go from something like totally non-boxing related that, that we were talking about to that. But who are you picking in that one? That's the undercard, the main undercard fight between, just under Joshua versus Ngannou. I'm probably going to be issuing my Zhili Zhang versus Joseph Parker preview tomorrow morning, but let me know who you got in that one. Alan Ortega said, if Eddie Hearn allowed and found a way for Conor Benn to fight, I just won't be surprised that they let Ryan fight. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, he is definitely, the guy who's been advocating for Conor Benn to return to the ring. Rain, hail, sleet, snow, 20 below. Like he wants Conor Benn back in that ring. I still think that this is a little bit different, but not, that not much, not much. And he has moved for Conor Benn to fight out here. But here's the thing. Let's say Conor Benn picked up like a 1-year suspension. That year would have been up by now. But he did fight twice. So it wouldn't have been up by the time that he returned to the ring the first time. But that 1 year would have been up by the time Conor Benn fought the second time. So look, Conor Benn's career has kind of already taken a hit. Just going through the process that he's been going through, reputation-wise, he hasn't fully recovered. Even if he was to be given another fight, I don't think that he's fully recovered. And we'll see how long it takes for him to get a big, meaningful fight. And we'll see how long it takes for him to get another fight in the UK. His fights in the US, they haven't been to large audiences. They've been in like pretty small venues, really. So like his career hasn't really rebounded yet. By the way, Dillian Whyte, did you read this? Like he was pretty much absolved of his PED test that he had tested positive just before the rematch with Anthony Joshua. If that is the case, and if he is in fact innocent, I feel like he should be able to sue somebody. You know what I mean? Like there should be some retribution. He lost out on millions of dollars. He lost out on even more reputation. He's in his late 30s, lost out on time. There should be something that he should gain if he is truly innocent here. You know what I mean? Like that would not be fair if he took a hit. Cause look, I was at a point to saying, screw this guy. Like that's where I was. Like when they had to put Robert Helenius in at the last minute, I'm like, oh man, I'm done with Dillian Whyte. If he was innocent, he should get something major in return. Pablo B said, I've lost twice in a row, betting against Zhang. This time I passed. Yeah. Let's see. People forget that he was a underdog going into that first fight against Zhilei Zhang. He was a pretty significant underdog. And people also forget that Joe Joyce was the underdog, a big underdog, going into the fight against Daniel Dubois. When time goes on, people forget what the betting odds were going into certain fights. But yeah, with this one, Zhilei Zhang is the favorite. Joseph Parker, I think style-wise, is a interesting matchup because of how he can kind of pick up the pace, move around. That's when he's not, fighting that frustrating Joseph Parker style where he smiles too much and he's like tapping gloves after every round. It's like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like this other guy clearly wants it more than you, or is at least fighting with more urgency than you, and you're going to chum it up with him after every round. What are you doing? I've seen multiple fights where Joseph Parker kind of carries that type of demeanor. It drives me crazy. But lately, he's been a little bit better at not doing that. But style-wise, he could present problems for Joe Joyce. But the issue is, if you look at his background, you can't find a southpaw that he's fought, like at least in the last 7 to 8 years. You go down his whole history, all those guys are orthodox. And your first fight against a southpaw, at least in the relevant part of your elite/near elite career, is going to be against the 6'6" slugger, not even slugger as in like brawler, but the hard hitting big bang Zhilei Zhang. Like that's going to be your intro to fighting southpaws. And I don't care if he's sparred with Tyson Fury, his homie. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same thing. That would be a tough baptism into fighting southpaws. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. The real deal. Thank you for coming through. From Saudi Arabia, I would like to say, assalamu alaikum. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming through. Yeah, appreciate you. Malaikum salam. But yeah, let me know who you guys have in that fight. And, also on that undercard, to answer your question, Pablo B, I do think Andy Lee and Parker's corner is making a difference. And I think that they game planned very well against Deontay Wilder. Because, going into that fight, I did always think that he had a better chance at upsetting Wilder than Otto Wallin did to upset Anthony Joshua. I thought that people were hyping Otto Wallin up way too much. I'm like, yo, what has he really done? He overachieved against Tyson Fury. And then his next best, win was either against Murat Gassiev or Dominic Brazil, depending on who you think would win between those two. But I'm like, what has he really done? He was scheduled to fight Dillian Whyte. They didn't fight. But I just thought that if you look at the matchup, Anthony Joshua, like his box would be checked in like almost in most categories: power, speed, stamina, experience. tit for tat boxing IQ and ability. Like I thought that Anthony Joshua had all of that. Not to say Otto Wallin is not a good boxer and he's a southpaw, but he ain't Alexander Usyk. You know what I'm saying? But I thought that there was a much bigger chance of Parker pulling off the upset against Wilder. But Parker's usually pretty susceptible to straight right hands. He didn't get hit flush by Wilder's straight right hands. And I think that in part was due to their preparation. Now, granted, Deontay Wilder has been inactive. Yes, he is pushing 40, you know what I mean, years old. But I don't want to take any credit away from their game planning, their strategy. I thought that Joseph Parker had better than his average head movement, anticipating when the other guy's about to let the punch go, punch selection, your ability to get in when you're throwing your punches, and then not only step out of the pocket, but then get out, way out, and at an angle. Sometimes after Parker throws punches, his hands are down and he's right there in striking range. That's where he usually can get caught, and he is very durable. But yeah, so to answer your question, I do think Andy Lee, being his trainer, has improved his performances, because he was also his trainer for that Simon Keane fight. I don't remember if Andy Lee was his trainer for the Joe Joyce fight, but Joseph Parker has had 4 fights now, I believe, since that knockout loss. The only time he's ever been stopped, but that knockout loss to Joe Joyce. But yeah, also on that undercard is Ray Vargas versus Nick Ball. Nick Ball coming off that win against Isaac Dogboe in his last fight. Nick Ball's kind of he's getting a lot of hype right now because he's just been performing pretty well. His style is a little bit Isaac Pitbull Cruz-ish. He's a short, compact fighter who likes to come forward and throw a lot of hard punches. And he just kind of overwhelmed Isaac Dogboe. But Isaac Dogboe was durable enough to go the distance. But Nick Ball won a pretty convincing decision. Ray Vargas hasn't fought since his loss to O'Shaquie Foster, but that was up at 130. But Ray Vargas, ever since COVID, he's been very inactive. I think he had 0 fights in 2020, 1 fight in 2021, 1 fight in 2022, 1 fight in 2023, I believe. That's just not active enough to really keep your skills and performance abilities up. So, look, I was surprised to see that Nick Ball is the betting favorite here. I'm tempted to put a little something on Ray Vargas. He's going to have a massive height advantage. Again, he has never lost at 126, but he is relatively inactive. Nick Ball's going to bring the heat. And Ray Vargas is the type of tall fighter that kind of gives up his height. He throws a lot of punches and he gets in there, but he's a pretty good boxer too. And he can bring heat on his own. Nick Ball is also susceptible to getting hit. He got rocked a couple times by Dogboe. So he does get hit. He's not a great defensive fighter. His defense is his pressure, so to speak. Ray Vargas can take pressure, and Ray Vargas can give pressure. I just don't think that we should be counting Ray Vargas out on this one. And I don't think the betting odds are necessarily counting him out. But again, Nick Ball, the guy who's never held a belt, the guy who's not the champion, is the betting favorite here. Just something to think about. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for coming in. We're about to wrap up in a sec. I got to take care of a couple things. I just wanted to jump on this impromptu live chat in light of what we've been seeing and hearing and just kind of watching with the Ryan Garcia story. And he also sounds very hostile, like his just aggressive, again, the word schizophrenia comes to mind. I've had loved ones, deal with it and go through it. Some are still going through it. And it again sounds almost verbatim, minus the 2-year-old, what he says happened to him at 2-year-old, minus that part. A lot of the other just what kind of claims and accusations and things like talking about what they've seen, what they're hearing, what they've witnessed, what they know is going on behind closed doors and in the world and with the deities and with the gods and with the elite, with the powerful, all those different things. I'm just seeing too many patterns for me to not think that it's that. And again, a lot of his musings and ramblings are kind of unintelligible, where you're making these crazy, or I don't want to use the word crazy like in that loose or negligent way, but these shocking claims without providing the specifics. It's always, and I said this earlier in the hour, it's always well, I'm going to reveal it later. You're going to see the proof. I've got proof, but I'm going to show you when the time is right type of thing. That's just a part of the pattern that I noticed. But again, there's just tons of parallels. The defensiveness, like I said, grand accusations, a lot of invoking God and bringing him and what he's revealing to you, what you're seeing and what you're hearing among the elites and what the powers are doing, and and their connection to the dark, to the darker gods and what the devil's doing with them, and all of that conspiring. It's just a part of a pattern that I've noticed over the years. Yeah, thank you for coming through, Alan Ortega. Thank you, The Real Deal. Thank you, Pablo B, DJ. And again, if you haven't checked out the AJ versus Ngannou preview, give that a look. I also did a recap on the Raymond Ford, that dramatic TKO, last moment TKO against Otabek Kolmatov. In a fight that Kolmatov was winning on two of the three judges' scorecards. He was on his way to winning that featherweight belt, but Raymond Ford pulled off the TKO. Questionable stuff. There is some question to that stoppage. Yes, Kolmatov was badly hurt. But I feel like it should have been called a knockdown. When you go crashing into the ropes like that and you haven't been down yet in the fight, and the fight has been that competitive for like 11 3/4 rounds, and you're gonna stop it like without giving a 1, 2, 3, 4 count to give Kolmatov a chance to, like, because that's when the ropes hold you up, that's technically supposed to be a knockdown, but a knockout, yeah, I don't know. But props to Raymond Ford for winning that featherweight belt. But yeah, thank you guys once again for coming through. Disc Guimas, thank you for coming through. Benjamin Tucker, Karma Serene, GWK. Yeah, thank y'all. I know that this was a quick one, and I'm gonna try to. I said that I wanted to do these. I think the last one I did was maybe 2 weeks ago, so I'm gonna try to pick up on the frequency just a bit. And I can't wait to recap this Friday's. Keep in mind, it's a Friday, not a Saturday, which is it's a time. Well, first of all, the day is weird, right? It's a Friday and not a Saturday, or it's at least unusual by boxing standards. Not to say we don't get Friday or even Thursday fights, or in the case of Japanese fights, sometimes we get them on Tuesday and Wednesday. But for this type of fight, it's weird to have it on a Friday, but it's also catering to the UK crowd, I think, in terms of the time of the day that it's supposed to take place. But correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that the main event was supposed to come on, Joshua versus Ngannou main event was supposed to come on at like 3 p.m. Pacific. But I just read something that they're expecting the walk-ins for the main event to be like 7, 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific, which would be more in line with what we would get out of like an American Top Rank card or an American Golden Boy card or PBC card that takes place in the States, like evening on the West Coast and later night, like 11 o'clock p.m. on the East Coast. So I've read conflicting things on when the main event's going to start. When I have more info or more certainty, like I might check like Bad Left Hook and see when the official, when the card is supposed to pick up and when it's supposed to be the main event. I'll let you guys know, maybe like in a YouTube post or on Twitter, X or something like that. But yeah, thanks again for coming through. Ventru is in the house. Yeah. Oh man, we were covering basically all things Ryan Garcia, and also just talking a little bit about Joshua Ngannou, a little bit about Ray Vargas versus Nick Ball, a little Zhili Zhang versus Joseph Parker. Thank you once again, for coming through. And you could probably just pick it up at the top. I would just go to the beginning of the hour, because we came in and we pretty much just got right to it and just dove right in, because there was a lot to discuss about what I see to be, and I'm interpreting to be, a true and authentic mental unraveling. And I'm going to use this word again because I think that it does apply, and I think that there's evidence to back it up. And just in terms of, again, I'm just observing here. I've got my own, life experience, and I know who's gone through something that is seemingly similar in terms of what they're displaying, what they're showing. I think that it's schizophrenia. That's just my guess, if you will. MAW is in the house. Yes, please smash the like button. Thank you. Thank you. As always. Thank you, MAW. Um, and by the way, and enjoy, the upcoming fight. Again, Friday, not Saturday. I'm gonna be watching it for sure. Hopefully with some family. I might even jump into like I don't know, like a Boxing Wave live chat or something. But I can't wait for this one. There's a lot of intrigue and a little bit of mystery. But yeah, thank you guys once again for coming through. Until next time, I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.